My name is Anna Stoltzfus, and I was born into one of the most traditional Amish communities in Lancaster County. I wore long, muted dresses from the time I could walk. I memorized scriptures before I was old enough to read them with understanding. I was taught that holiness looked like submission, silence, and simplicity, especially for women. Every part of my life was regulated. The way I spoke, the way I dressed, the way I prayed, the way I smiled, even the thoughts I was allowed to think. Obedience was everything. Questioning was pride. Joy was a sign you were too full of the world. As a little girl, I would watch the wind dance through the fields and feel something stir in me, something wild, curious, beautiful. But I pushed it down. I had to. Feelings were suspicious. Emotions were dangerous. And worse, asking why was rebellious. By the time I was 25, I had done everything right. I cooked, cleaned, worked the garden, raised my siblings, and read the Bible faithfully. I followed every rule. I never asked questions. But still, I never felt close to God. No one ever said the word fear out loud in our church, but we all lived in it. Fear of the elders, fear of standing out, fear of being seen as prideful, fear of being cast out, fear that if we didn't do everything exactly right, God would be angry. I didn't know grace. I didn't even dare hope for it. In our community, grace was seen as a dangerous loophole, something the English used as an excuse to sin. And so I stayed small. I stayed silent. And I stayed spiritually starving, too ashamed to even admit it. I thought holiness meant being invisible, that the quieter I became, the closer I'd get to God. But I never felt Him. Not once. The day it happened was ordinary. I was carrying a basket of linens through the barn when my foot caught on a rope near the rafters. I fell. Hard. The world tilted. Then silence. I hovered above myself, watching from somewhere outside of time. I saw my bonnet twisted beneath my neck, my arms folded like a broken doll, my body lying still in the straw. But I wasn't scared. I wasn't hurting. I felt peace, not like sleep, but like waking up from a life I hadn't realized was so heavy. It felt like I had been breathing through a straw my whole life, and now, suddenly, the air was clear. I wasn't pulled upward, like some imagine. It felt more like being drawn inward, into something timeless and alive. Everything around me began to glow, not harsh like the sun, but soft, warm, welcoming. The light wasn't just light. It had personality. It was love itself. This love didn't demand. It didn't inspect me. It received me. All the shame, all the fear, all the stiffness I had wrapped around my heart, it started to fall away. Not because someone forced it off, but because I couldn't carry it in this place. And then I realized who I was about to meet. It wasn't the Jesus I had been warned about, the one used to guilt us into obedience. It was the real Jesus. I didn't see him approach. I simply knew he was the light, and the light was him. He didn't need to move. His presence filled everything. His robe shimmered like woven breath. His eyes, I can't explain them. They were fire and water, all at once. And then he spoke. Anna, just my name. But that word, it broke me, because in his voice there was no disappointment, no anger, no shame. only love, only knowing. You've worked hard to be holy, he said, but you've been afraid of me your whole life. I fell to my knees. He didn't show me my sins to shame me. He showed me my burdens. Times I wanted to comfort someone but stayed quiet, afraid the elders would say it was improper. Times I opened my Bible and felt wonder, but slammed it shut before it could take root. Times I longed to dance, sing, or just laugh, but crushed it under guilt. And Jesus didn't condemn me. He grieved with me. He showed me that obedience without love is slavery. Discipline without relationship is emptiness. He looked at me and said, "You were told to fear falling, but never taught how to rest in me." Then he peeled back the walls I'd grown up in. He showed me how shame was used like a leash, how the silence of women wasn't holiness, but erasure, how being unseen wasn't sanctification, it was neglect, how I had measured God's pleasure by elders' approval, not his presence. Religion without me is a form without life, he said. You've built prisons and praised me from inside them. I felt such sorrow, not because I was being punished, but because I realized how much I had missed. Not just missed out on, but missed Jesus. Then Jesus brought Scripture to life, like colors I had never seen. For by grace you have been saved through faith. Ephesians 2 verses 8 to 9. That verse burned in the air like it had breath. I suddenly understood. Grace wasn't permission to sin, it was power to be free. The law wasn't a prison, it was a guide to Jesus. Rest wasn't a reward, it was the starting point. He showed me that the gospel was not a ladder to climb, but a door to walk through. I wept again. How could I have lived so long thinking God wanted my perfection, when all he ever wanted was my heart? Jesus didn't give me a checklist. He didn't give me rules. He gave me one thing, a calling. You're not leaving me. I'm going with you. They need to see me in you. He didn't say I had to argue or preach. He didn't say I had to change doctrines or confront elders. He simply said, live free, walk in truth, show them who I am by your peace. Let them see the love in your eyes and the rest in your spirit. I was stunned. But they won't understand, I said. They'll think I've rebelled. And he answered, you were not set free to become proud. You were set free to become light. He smiled, full of mercy, and then reached out his hand. Now go. And just like that, I was falling backward through the light. I opened my eyes to bright hospital lights. I was sore. My head was bandaged. My arms were scraped and bruised. A nurse gasped and called for the doctor. They said I was lucky to be alive. But I wasn't just alive. I had been reborn. I closed my eyes, and in that sterile room filled with machines, I whispered, I remember you. I won't forget. When I returned home to the community, everything felt small. The dresses felt heavier. The silence felt louder. The rules, once comforting, now felt like chains I hadn't noticed before. I didn't rush to confront anyone. I didn't start shouting grace or challenging sermons. I just lived differently. I smiled more. I asked questions. I helped without being asked. I prayed from the heart, not a script. I wept during scripture readings. I sang softly while hanging clothes, and it didn't take long for them to notice. My sister pulled me aside and whispered, you seem lighter. I smiled, because I am, but not everyone was curious. Some were uncomfortable. They whispered that I'd lost reverence, that I was emotional, worldly, different. One elder warned me gently, "Be careful, Anna. Too much freedom can lead you away from God." And I responded, calm, steady, peaceful. I haven't walked away from God. I finally met Him. I didn't leave the Amish to prove a point. I didn't leave in anger. I left because I couldn't stay in a system that hid the heart of God behind fences of fear. Jesus had shown me something real, something alive, something that couldn't be dressed in black and white or measured by how plain my clothes were. He had shown me relationship, grace, truth, and that truth set me free. I found a small spirit-filled community of believers in Ohio. They welcomed me, not because I followed all their rules, but because I had met the same Jesus they knew. I still wore simple clothes. I still live quietly, but my heart is no longer silent. I read scripture out loud now, and it jumps off the page. I worship not as a performance, but as a love song. I ask questions. I dance. I laugh. I cry without shame. I rest. And I speak, not with anger, but with love, because I know there are others like me, trapped in rules, silenced by fear, wondering quietly at night, is there more? And the answer is, yes. I didn't leave to rebel. I left because I met Him. He was nothing like I was told, not distant, not cold, not angry. He was love wrapped in light, truth wrapped in tenderness. I used to fear falling. Now I walk hand in hand with the one who catches me. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have the answers. You don't need to earn your place. Jesus already knows your name. He's already set the table. He's not waiting for you to impress Him. He's waiting for you to come home. If this story stirred something in you, don't brush it off. Like and share this video if you know someone trapped in religious fear. Comment below if you've experienced this ache or want to know more. I'll pray for every name. Subscribe for more real testimonies of people meeting the living Jesus. And if you've been following rules your whole life but still feel empty, if you've whispered in the dark, God, is there more? There is. His name is Jesus, and He's calling you, not to behave, not to perform, not to hide, but to walk with Him.